show about art. Sit back and relax so the show can now start.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of The Art Show. This is the show where artists from the Office Hours Live community get together to discuss their craft while drawing Art Garfunkel. I'm your host, Brian Bonelli. Now in episode 1, I showed you how to make colored pencil art. Ashley Brown taught us all about digital art in episode 2. And today, Ellie Hajdu is here to give a pen and ink art demonstration. Ellie is a book illustrator, a maker of puppets and doll clothes, and she's a very funny cartoonist. Also, as I mentioned back in episode 1, no one else on the planet has drawn Art Garfunkel more times than Ellie has, making her the world's foremost authority on this topic. Take it away, Ellie.
All right, so usually I just go for it with my pen. And when I make a mistake, I just cut out a piece of paper and then I glue it over my mistake. And then I just keep going. So my drawings often come out kind of patchy looking. In this case, I didn't though. I didn't really somehow, I guess because I draw Art Garfunkel so often, I was able to hopefully capture him without doing that. And then I hardly ever use pencils, but sometimes to map out where the body is, that's usually where I'll take out my pencil and I'll, just kind of do a light outline of the body. The body is always less important to me as well. I know that you touched on that, Brian. I don't care as much about the background and the body as I do about the face. Well, I care about it, but it's not as much fun. And yeah, I just keep going. Super speedy, fast motion, Charlie Chaplin style drawing. And that's, that's it. Basically, I like to kind of put a little joke, jokey comic in my drawings. You'll see at the end, I got a little punchline happening at the end of it. That's it. I love Art Garfunkel, as you might know. I never miss a concert when he's in town, usually playing in Tahoe at a casino, but I don't care. I'll go there, I'll see him. And that's it. And the punchline is, drumroll, art. I believe it's Arthur. That's it. Yeah.
Now that is great.
That was bad.
What I love about your work is that it's very funny. You're very good at getting the essence of who you're drawing and also getting something funny out of it. And I think Art Garfunkel is just such a perfect foil, in a good way, in a loving way, because he's such like a self-serious, he's so ridiculous, and how like serious he got, like that famous footage of him with John Lennon and like Paul Simon at the Grammys, where he's like, "This is serious." He's wearing like a silly tuxedo shirt, so it's like.
Great. I love using him in comics that are kind of funny because he's kind of like the perfect Bert and Ernie character, like the most serious. And then it's really easy to put something kind of wild next to him. And then it already is just fun. It's hilarious because he's coming with that seriousness. He has that background of that character that's a serious character. And then you can just throw something wacky, weird in there and it's automatically funny. So I've always really enjoyed adding him to try to make something funny, even though I love him and he's very cool.
Yes, we all love Art Garfunkel. So I noticed you use microns.
Yes, I use microns. I use the smallest one that I can find, which is a 0.003. I like when they get kind of out of ink and scratchy. That's my favorite moment. And when I pull out a new one, I'm kind of bummed, but I try to make that work. Yeah, love it.
And do you draw on any specific type of paper, like any thickness that you like to look for, or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. I like a smooth piece of paper, and I like it not to be too thick because then I can't rip out other pieces and like slap them on and glue them on and like patchwork like the way that I like to. But yeah, that's it. Basically smooth though. I would I mean, I don't know what it would be like, but I wouldn't want to use like a watercolor paper that has more texture, or those kind of like hatched papers. I don't think that would be something I would be interested in, but you never know.
Well, I used to do Micron back when I started out, teaching myself how to draw, and back then they only had the 005s were the
Oh, the smallest.
Yeah, and I was like, I'd kill if they would just make one that's just a little thinner. And now that they have, I really should start playing around with those because
I love them so much. You can really get these fine lines. It just looks, to me, it looks beautiful, and I'm obsessive about fine lines, and I love. I'll add lines where there are definitely should never be lines, just because I just love. It's very therapeutic for me to just slowly fill in an area with small lines. I don't know if anybody else finds that. Even with painting, like Sarah, like, do you find it therapeutic to just kind of slowly fill in an area with like the strokes? It's really,
yeah. Painting the background is the funnest part if it's just a solid background. It's just, there's no risk involved. It's just, yeah.
When you approach a drawing, when you start drawing a subject, like how do you start? Really?
sometimes I start in the nostril, nose. I spend a lot of time in people's nostrils, and then sometimes I start in the eye, and then, like yourself, I space it. Oh, the eye. This eye is this far from this eye, and that corner of that eye is this far from the nostril. I do a lot of. Your eyes are amazing the way that they can really calculate space. I think our eyes are made to calculate the distance between things right away. So you can really kind of make lines using your eyes between things and find out how far away things are from each other. I hope that doesn't sound kooky. It's like your eyes make lines. That doesn't make any sense.
It does to us, probably.
Yeah, but you understand.
I know exactly what you mean.
I think
Yeah.
we're capable of really assessing how far away something is from how far away things are from each other and the amount of space there is in between things. So that's what I use to, because the size of the forehead, let's say, is extremely important in making a likeness. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but let's say just the distance between your eyebrow and your hairline, it makes all the difference as to whether that looks like what you're trying to draw or not, which you wouldn't normally think, but it does. So stuff like that, just try to figure out.
Yeah, that's great. It's really crazy. I've noticed how it's just these little things that you wouldn't think are so important to your face.
Yeah.
But once you screw up, like, yeah, just like how big the forehead is. And you go, oh my God, that just totally does not look like the person I'm drawing anymore, or it looks like freakish, it's not the things that you would think sometimes when you're drawing that are really important to getting a likeness down. And I think this brings us to a really great point that I really want to stress here, and it's that anyone could draw, you could draw, anyone can draw, anyone can draw. It's not a gift that was, bestowed upon us at birth. God didn't bless us with any talent that no one else has. It's a skill that you could kind of learn, and kind of you learn how to look at things. It's learning how to look at things and then interpreting them, getting them down on paper. That's really what drawing is. It's just analyzing like shapes and distance and relationships between those shapes, and getting them down on paper. It's
And practice, lots of practice.
Practice, yeah.
Can I ask Ellie a question though?
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Because you said you didn't like doing the body as much as the face, but I always really admire the way you do like figures, and I didn't know if you had like just what's your background with figure drawing, because I struggle with that. I'm not good at that.
Well, I did go to art school where we did have to do figure drawing. So I have that in my pocket a little bit. I don't know.
I like the way you do hands.
The hands. Yeah, I like a little creepy looking hand.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. It's like
they don't really look like a drawing, they look actually like my hands. My hands are all kind of wired, like a little bit like, but
they're kind of pointy.
pointy. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
a little pointy hand. I don't know where that's from. You know what? When I'm a little older, so like when I was in college, Tim Burton was like all the rage. That was like what everybody wanted to do. We were all imitating it, and that was all about long, pointy things. So that might
Mhm.
be like we were all drawing like skeletal figurines. Like that was our thing. It was all goth figures. So maybe
Really
that's
long, slender
long,
bodies.
exactly those long, pointy and the pointy elbows and the angles. I also took a great class with these instructors next to my workplace is across the street from Pixar, and then they have a place where they have like classes by people that work at Pixar, like next to my workplace. Like it's all kind of a triangular thing. And I used to go to these classes, and these character artists would teach there. You don't have to put this in if you don't want to. And it was just like so fascinating what they taught about silhouettes, like the way that it's so important that you can see different angles on a body in a still image. It's all about composition and the silhouette of the figure. And I learned a lot from those people, and the way that they use movement and figures.
Hmm.
And for any cartoonists or character designers out there, this is something that Matt Groening always says, is that a sign of good character design is that if you could take the silhouette of someone and you could tell immediately who they are just by the silhouette. And if you look at The Simpsons, I mean, they're very distinct. You can you got the hair of Marge and the squiggly hair of Bart. So silhouettes. We've been getting some really terrific feedback from you all. So before wrapping things up, here are a few comments, tips, and drawings that I'd like to highlight. Back in episode 1, we were discussing blending with Prismacolors, and Shannon Dry suggested using a stump for this. Now, for the uninitiated, this is a stump. It is essentially a sheet of paper that has been rolled up, and what you do is you take the tip and you rub it on your drawing to blend. Pretty simple. Now, you could probably make one of these yourself, but if you're lazy like me, they are very cheap, so you could just go out and buy a bunch. Jessica Kylo suggested using Vaseline on your pencils for blending, and that is something I've never tried, but I am very curious, so I will be trying that in the future. Thank you, Jessica. In episode 2, we were discussing cheaper alternatives to Photoshop, and some of you piped in with some pretty good suggestions. If you have an iPad, Trevor Phillips recommends using Procreate. There are several artists on social media who I follow who use Procreate to great effect. Trevor's one of them. He does terrific work. There's also Gregory on Twitter, who mostly specializes in on-cinema fan art. It's really terrific stuff, so give them a follow. Qualia says, I use Krita, which is completely free and open source. It works very well. There's also a popular paid one called Clip Studio Paint that is much cheaper than Photoshop and often goes on sale. However, I heard it is moving to a subscription model soon. Finally, there's also Paint Tool Sai, which is free, very lightweight, and will run on terrible old computers. That last point is very important to me. I was complaining a lot about GIMP being ineffective, but Cujo89 assures me that it has gotten better, so you may want to give that a shot. Here's a drawing of Art Garfunkel that Shannon Dry sent in. I really like the use of green and black here. She says that he kind of morphed into Patrick Swayze by the end, and there's one thing I think we could all agree on, it's that Ghost would have been a much better movie with Art Garfunkel as the lead. If I can make a serious point for a second, though, I can relate. I've had that issue before where I start drawing one person and it kind of turns into another person. For example, a few years ago, I was working on a drawing of Phil Hartman, and it got to the point where I think it kind of morphed a little into Arnold Schwarzenegger. But, it's still a good drawing, I think. So sometimes your likeness might not look exactly like your subject, but it's fine. We're doing this for fun. This is low stakes, low pressure. This is fun. Art should be fun. Don't worry about getting it exact. Scott Pauley sent in this colored pencil drawing of me. He plans on drawing all of the art show panelists in their respective mediums. I'm flattered. Thank you so much. I love it. It's perfect. He even got the tiny little unibrow hairs here. Great work, Scott. If any of you have comments, questions, complaints, or drawings that you'd like me to highlight on a future episode, shoot me a DM on social media. I am the Brian Bonelli on Twitter and All the President's Man on Instagram. Until next time, so long, so long.